The government seized businesses to keep them running, but for most part, government and business cooperated and businesses profited. Labor in the war. Labor also did well during the war. Union membership swelled, and Wilson did everything possible to avoid strikes. An acute labor shortage raised wages and drew Mexican Americans and women into war-related industries. Large number of African Americans left the South to find jobs in the northern cities and factories. Coming from a rural background, blacks now had to adjust to the pace of industrial work and found that they were as disliked in the North as they were in the South. In East St. Louis, 40 African Americans were killed in a riot in 1917, and riots in other cities took the lives of more blacks. But blacks, many of whom had seen combat in France, fought back, and the white death toll in the racial riots was also significant. Despite the tensions created by the war, the United States emerged from World War I as the world's strongest economic power. The Treaty of Versailles. Wilson hoped to bring a world order based on justice from chaos of the war. He wanted to give defeated Germany generous treatment, and he insisted on the establishment of a League of Nations to guarantee the peace. This section explains the failure of Wilson's peace plans. Peace at Paris. Wilson foolishly made his peace efforts a partisan issue, and he alienated many Republicans who might have worked with him. He discovered that the Allies were determined to punish Germany and that he could not be deflected from his goal. Wilson did succeed in creating the League of Nations, including an Article X of the Charter, which required each member nation to protect the territorial integrity of all other members. Anticipating a fight over the treaty in the Senate, Wilson agreed to limit the League's jurisdiction so that it could not interfere in nations' domestic affairs. Rejection in the Senate. Wilson could have had the treaty ratified if he were willing to accept minor changes in the League, but he refused. Republican Senator Henry Cabot Lodge organized opposition to the League and delayed the vote on the treaty. Wilson went directly to the people in a tour of the nation, but in October, a stroke disabled him and doomed the League. Wilson hoped that a Democratic victory in the presidential election of 1920 would demonstrate the people's desire for the League, but Republican Warren Harding won a landslide victory. Wilson's defeat in the struggle for the League of Nations coincided with a general feeling of disillusionment. Americans were convinced that they had been duped into war and that the war had changed nothing. The progressive spirit was one of the war's last casualties. World War I, feared before it started, popular while it lasted, and hated when it was ended, confirmed the nation's disillusionment with war and international commitment. The war and its aftermath also killed the progressive spirit of reform that had dominated the first 2 decades of the century.